I want to start this off by saying why we're talking about today is actually super important. So one tragic thing that has been pretty common for most of human history is child death. And actually, it's quite common for infants to die at the very first month of life at the neonatal period. And the two leading causes for that are preterm birth and intrauterine complications, which are both, things related to pregnancy and the mother's health. So nowadays it has gotten much better in a lot of places in the world because we were able to implement systems that can help us monitor pregnancies. And one way to do that is through cardiotocography, which is a test that happens at the third trimester of pregnancy. And as you can see here, I added a little picture of how it's done. You can see two transducers. One is for monitoring the fetus's heart rate, and one is for monitoring intrauterine pressure to know when the actual contractions are happening. And in addition to that, there's usually like a little button that the mother can press on whenever she feels the baby moving in order to monitor, fetal movements. And at the end of this lovely process, we end up with a little piece of paper that we're just gonna zoom into right here. An obstetrician is handed this paper and they can see what we're seeing right here. Starting from the very bottom, we can see the uterine contractions, above it, the fetal movements as indicated by the mother, and above it, we can see the fetal heart rate. And an obstetrician has to extract as much data as possible from this little piece of paper. So for example, looking at the fetal heart rate, they not only have to see, how many beats per minute there is, they also have to look for something called variability, which is, as you can see here, a fetal heart rate is not, constant. It's not, for example, 140 all throughout. It comes in waves. It's going up and down, and there are normal ranges for that. In addition to that, an obstetrician is looking for abrupt increases or decreases in the fetal heart rate, and they're looking, is it severe? Is it, and how much is it happening? And its relation to intrauterine contractions. All of these information help the obstetrician to determine fetal health. So for example, this is a very summarized, simplified way of reading a CTG. The actual one goes a lot more into detail into the waves shapes and how long each thing is lasting. But I just added this in to know the importance of each element that we read from the cardiotogram. Based on these findings, we can determine whether the fetus is actually suffering from any fetal distress, and it can help the doctors determine what's the next step. Will we have, something, is this a very high risk pregnancy? Do I have to do something, really quick? Or is this something that we can solve pretty in a chill way, basically? So as you saw, this is a very complicated process, a very subjective process. One thing can mean one thing to an obstetrician and mean something else to another obstetrician. And I really wish someone would create a program that would make this more efficient and quicker and more objective. So a lot of people have, and I try to do that. So the model I used machine learning based on a data set that had all the information that we saw before. So the actual data set determined fetal health based on obstetrician's observations. And they had 3 obstetricians to determine, what they think this indicates. And basically through machine learning, the model was able to predict fetal health by an accuracy, as you can see, of 0.94. And using only 5 parameters, it was able to do that with an accuracy of 0.93. And I added in what the best 5 scoring features were, and they were all relating to basically the baseline value, which is the beats per minute, and variability, whether it's long-term or short-term, and how much it lasted throughout the CTG. So as you can see here, this is super, so yeah. This helps an obstetrician, do this more objectively. And this is also very important because a lot of places, remote places, don't really have skilled professionals. Sometimes it's just a nurse or just someone who's not that, used to reading CTGs. So having something like this can really help remote places determine whether this is a high risk pregnancy or not. yeah, so this has a lot of applications, and there has been, many programs that try to do that. This is my simple version of it. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm ready for any questions you have.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you for the amazing project. Actually, it is really one of a kind. I loved your self-confident, the way that you are speaking, and then yes, that was beautiful. Thank you. Actually, I will leave the part to the technical part. I think that Sami has a question.
First off, great job and very beautiful, colorful slides. Much better than something I can make. I guess I have a few specific questions. So when we're measuring accuracy, like what are we predicting? Are we predicting like health complications? Are we predicting a specific complication in the pregnancy? Like what are we trying to predict using, these values that you've extracted?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, in a traditional judgment of a CTG, we have three cases. So it's either normal, probably normal, or pathological or suspicious. So what we mean by pathological, it can mean a whole lot of things. It can mean, maybe compression of the umbilical cord. It might mean, hypotension with the mother. It can mean a lot of things. But what we're measuring here is only whether it's normal or suspicious or pathological. So we have to look at the full picture to know what the exact problem is. So those are the main things we're measuring.
I see. I
I'm not
see.
sure
So
if that
this is
answered
like an
your question,
interesting as
or
like a screening
if
tool,
you meant
more so
something
than a
else.
diagnostic tool. Tells you like it might be a problem.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. And then another
Yeah.
question I had was, what specific like model or algorithm did you implement? Like, was it a random forest? Was it like,
Yeah.
can you give some detail on?
Yeah. I used random forests, which was the one we got introduced to when we learned about the specific lesson. I later realized that there were many more ways to do it, but this one was the one I was more comfortable with.
This will be my last question. I'm just curious, like can you just give us some information on like the nature of the data set? Like how big was it? Do you know like where this information was coming from? Was it from a specific city? Was it sort of like pooled data from multiple countries? Like, do you have that information? I'm just curious about that.
I'm not entirely sure, actually. I think it was from a specific center. I don't think it was pooled. And I'm not sure about the size, actually. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
If I may ask one last question as well. So regarding this program, right? If you have something, maybe let's say one thing you'd like to improve from here, if you were to say continue this project, what would that be? Is it increasing accuracy, or do you want to make it like retain the accuracy while relying on less feature by letting it learn more with more data? Or what would be the room of improvement that you'll be interested in pursuing?
Yeah, I actually thought about that because, I've been thinking a lot about, will we be replaced by AI and whatnot? And one thing that, like a healthcare professional can be better at than this program is being able to assess the overall risk by knowing, for example, what are some specific, health situations the mother suffers from. For example, does she have diabetes? Does she have hypertension? Specific things like that. So I would love to be able to actually add more features that, let's see if they actually help us predict more, or like adding these specific situations to the program. I would love to work on that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sami and Maya, for your questions. And Maya, thank you for answering these questions. Actually, you're done with the technical questions. I will be asking a general question about your involvement with paper airplanes, and how was the program really beneficial for you? And if you can compare your skills before the course and after the course, how would you compare them?
Yeah, I actually went into this course knowing that's going to be a challenge. Like the only thing I knew about coding before was that it was intimidating. But this really exceeded my expectations. I didn't actually think that I would be able to, make a little project at the end of it, because remembering that just like 2 months ago, I was asking them like, how do I download this? How do I set this up on my computer? And now I'm actually working with it, and learning more is actually very, mind-blowing for me. So yeah, I really started from zero. I didn't have any previous Python or coding experience, and now I feel like I kind of know more, and I'm really excited to learn more, because as I mentioned, I'm still reading on this and seeing what other ways are possible to achieve these things. So I definitely will continue learning about this.